Hi everybody, how's it going? So today's video I thought we'd talk about the weather and its effect on fishing. And it does have a huge effect on fishing. Now, why am I talking about weather and fishing? Well, I want to bring this up to the absolute beginner to give them some idea of what to look for and what to expect under certain weather conditions. All right, so as most of you know, I just recently retired from my full-time profession. And I started working as a part-time fishing outfitter for a large outdoor store. And I was really quite surprised about the number of people that come in and ask us about, weather conditions and how it affects fishing and what they can expect under certain conditions. So I thought I would do this little video. I'm going to touch on 4 areas for the absolute beginner to take into consideration before they go out. All right, so let's start off. So the first thing I want to talk about is bright sunny conditions. Yeah, it may be wonderful for you to go out on a beautiful, brilliant, sunny day, to go out there, just throw the line out, sup in those rays and have a great day. But are you going to get any fish? Well, you may not, and it all depends. If you're a shore hugger like I am and you're relegated to the shallows, bright water conditions because of bright sunlight is not very favorable to the fish, because fish have a tendency to go blind when they're in bright conditions. They just can't see very well. Unlike human eyes, which have eyelids and have dilating pupils, fish have neither one of those. Their pupils are fixed and they can't close their eyes. So bright light will actually blind them. And this puts them at a great disadvantage when it comes to trying to protect themselves from predators. And what they will do is they're going to seek out places that are shaded or go to deeper water. Now, the other thing when it's bright sunny conditions, this will also heat up the surface of the water. So the upper part of the water column can be quite warm. Now, fish are cold-blooded animals, which means their body temperature depends on their environment. So if it's too warm in the upper water column, it's going to be very uncomfortable for them. They're going to go somewhere where it's cooler. The other thing to keep in mind is that with the bright warm conditions, the oxygen level in the water and the upper part of the water column can also be very low as well. This can also contribute to fish wanting to go deeper because they just can't get that oxygen out of the water going over their gills. It's like you being in a stuffy room. You want to get the heck out of it because you can't breathe. All right, so keep that in mind when you're fishing under sunny conditions, all right, and you're fishing in shallow waters. You got to keep that in mind. Look for deep pools, look for areas that are shaded, and hopefully you'll find some fish. Now, another thing I want to mention is UV rating. Now, you can find out what the UV rating is for any day simply by looking on your weather app. And usually it'll say low, high, or medium, whatever. UV rays affect fish adversely just as they do any other animal or human. All right? So when the UV rating is high, fish, once again, will go down to deeper water where the UV rays don't affect them. Now, a low rating is anything from 1 to up to about maybe 3 on the UV scale. If you see that the day you're going fishing, the chances are you're going to find fish in shallow waters. But anything above a 4, you're going to have to start going into deeper waters to try and find the fish. Now, this can be very advantageous for the boat guys because all they have to do is go out to deeper water and they have the ability to fish, in much deeper water than somebody who's relegated to the shore. So high UV ratings, fish will go to deeper waters. Low UV ratings, fish will come into the shallows. That's something you want to keep an eye on. Windy conditions, does that affect fishing? Yeah, it does. Absolutely it does. Not just the angler, it affects fishing as well. Fish will go to sheltered areas if the water is too rough in their normal feeding grounds. They don't like being bumped and bashed about any more than you do, all right? So you have to find areas that are sheltered. It also may not be feasible for you to go fishing on a windy day because you may not be able to cast. So that's something else you've got to keep in mind as well. An onshore wind was going to blow your line back in your face. An offshore wind is advantageous to the angler because you can get a long cast out. But for most part, I have found that windy conditions is just not a good time to go fishing. Now, the fourth thing, which is very important, is barometric pressure. It plays a huge role in fishing. It's simple to keep an eye on and determine whether or not fishing is feasible for that day or the time of day that you want to go. All right. Again, check your weather app. Now, there's an old saying in the fishing world, it's 10-20, fish or plenty. What does that mean? Well, 10-20 refers to the barometric pressure reading of 10-20 kilopascals. If you have a reading of around, say, 10-15 to 10-25, that is usually a pretty good time to go fishing. And as the barometric pressure starts to fall, is also a good time to go fishing as well, because fish can determine a change in the weather pattern almost a day before it happens, and they'll start going into a bit of a feeding frenzy, so they're very active. Now, what happens when the barometric pressure is either too high or too low? It has an adverse effect on the air bladder that the fish has. The air bladder is something the fish utilizes to go up and down in the water column. All right. If the barometric pressure is high, the air bladder is pinched, and that's when the fish feels a bit more comfortable. It's, like you sitting here right now, you feel quite comfortable. But as that barometric pressure starts to drop and it gets down to a point, the air bladder will expand and press on the fish's stomach. And then the fish will not feed. It's just like you going to your grandmother's or your great aunt's for Thanksgiving. You have that wonderful big turkey dinner. You sit back on the couch afterwards and you're like, oh my goodness, I couldn't eat. I'm full to bust. That's how a fish feels when the barometric pressure gets too low and their swim bladder starts expanding. So when that happens, what do they do? That's right. They go to the deep again so that their swim bladder can pinch a bit more and they'll feel more comfortable. All right. So those are the few things you might want to keep in mind when you're going out. And they're very, very simple to check up on. So bright sunny conditions, you're going to look for shaded areas and you're going to look for deep pools. All right. High UV index. Remember, low UV index, fish are going to be in shallow water, but the higher the index, the deeper they're going to go. So again, you're going to look for deep areas where you can fish. If you're in a boat, great, you've got it made. But shore anglers, you're going to have to look for deep areas in order to fish. All right. Windy days. As I said before, I don't find windy days good days to go fishing. But if you insist on going fishing on a windy day, you're going to have to look for sheltered areas. All right. So that sheltered deep areas to look for fish. Barometric pressure, a big one. Watch the barometric pressure. As I said, 10-20, you see a reading in that area, chances are it'd be a good day to go fishing. But if it's starting to drop or it's at the bottom, it's plateaued out, by the time you want to go fishing, it will not be a good time to go fishing because fish just will not be interested in anything you have to give to them. All right, so those are 4 basic things to look for when it comes to weather conditions when you're fishing. Yes, weather does have an effect on your ability to catch fish. All right, keep those things in mind before you go fishing, and hopefully you can still have a pretty good day out there. All right, so this is Sharon. Until the next time, tight lines.